Well, welcome to My Harlow My Life, and this is, of course, our second episode. And we had, of course, Ray Dyer in the first episode, and so privileged to have another super legend from Harlow as well now, Mr. Ian Barham. So, how are we, mate?
Oh, I wouldn't go super legend, but yeah, I'm doing all right, thanks. Not too bad at all.
So, how are we coping with the lockdown?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I'm missing football, missing everyday life. It's really weird going from I've got three young kids, so my weekends have gone from rushing around to kids clubs and coaching my son's football team, and then getting to Harlow Town and stuff like that to nothing to do. So it's taken a bit of getting used to trying to sort of fill my days with stuff. But no, it's I'm healthy and all safe and well, and so the family. So I can't complain too much.
No, absolutely. What your feelings? I mean, as you know, I do the D&K show every Monday night, and I know Keith's got his views on it. But I mean, literally, when do you see the football coming back?
I mean, honestly, it makes. I've kind of said all along, it makes sense to kind of follow the Premier League. I mean, I was very surprised when the National League started making decisions, and the Football League started making decisions, because I kind of thought all the way along the Premier League would kind of lead the way, make their decision, and everything would ripple down from them, and that would kind of include us. So I kind of figured that this season would get finished at some stage over the summer, which it seems, the Premier League have announced that they're going to restart in a few weeks' time and finish by end of July. And then I think, all being well, everything will probably kick off again, maybe end of September, October, something like that. And if it's possible to, then I think most other leagues will try and do something similar to sort of fall in line with that, because I think the last thing you want is leagues, not just in this country but in other countries, sort of going all different times. It causes an absolute nightmare. I mean, the irony is, at non-league level, our level, it's probably easier to cope with social distancing and things like that than it is in a huge Premier League stadium. So there were some games on the terrace where you couldn't get closer than 2 meters to anybody anyway, because there just weren't enough people to fill it. So I think especially for non-league clubs, it's such a cash business. You need people coming through the turnstiles. You've not got the massive sponsorship deals, the TV revenue, all of the huge prize money you get, stuff like that. So they need people coming through the turnstiles. So I think for the survival of a hell of a lot of clubs at our level, and probably above us as well, they're going to need. They can't afford to sit out a season, for example. I've heard a lot of people sort of saying, well, maybe just next season will be knocked on the head. There won't be a season next year. I cannot see that being feasible for a lot of clubs, that it would almost kill them instantly. So, yeah, I mean, my hope is, we have this extended period without any football, and then come to sort of autumn time, September, hopefully we'll be able to start some kind of season, and they might have to make some sacrifices, maybe knock a couple of the cups on the head for a year or so that there aren't as many games, and there's not that many opportunities for people to gather. But that's my hope anyway, because I'm missing it. I want to get back to some kind of football as soon as we can.
No, absolutely. And of course, then there's all the stuff to work out, and me personally, I don't envy people like Chris and Tom and Tim and all the stuff they've got to sort out, because I know we've seen it on the forum as well, where we're not too sure if Mark's going to be the manager, someone else is going to be manager, because he was only on sort of like stand. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but he was only interim, wasn't he? At that stage as well. So all that sort of side of it, maybe that for them that's got to be sorted out as well. So it must be difficult for them, because they don't know when it's going to start to be able to sort things out.
Yeah, as well, the club, we're fortunate that we've got the great facilities at our club, so we rely a lot on the functions and the events to bring money in as well. So every single wedding that there is between now and the autumn, I imagine has either been cancelled already or is up in the air. So I can't imagine the difficulties that Tim and Tom and everyone are going through trying to just keep the club ticking over. I'm sure we've made use of all the government furlough schemes and the holidays on our business rates and stuff like that. But you can only do that for a certain amount of time. So yeah, I think it's a nervous time for everybody, but hopefully we're in a strong enough position that when football finally comes back, we'll have a club to be able to come back to.
Are you surprised, though, Ian? Are you surprised? Well, we're quite surprised when we talk to different clubs on sort of on our show on a Monday night that a lot of clubs are saying they're okay, they're financially okay, they're looking forward to next season, and they're in a position where they're working out stuff. Are you surprised that a lot of people, a lot of clubs that seem to be saying that they're okay, or was you expecting clubs to say, well, we're going to be going to the wall and you start next season with possibly, 3/4 of the teams that we had at the beginning of the last season?
Yeah, I mean, I think sensibly run clubs, they will have a bit of a buffer. So having missed out on the last quarter of the season was I think that's probably about what we missed out on. So that in terms of home games, which will be their big revenue streams, they've probably only lost 5 or 6 maybe home games from last season. So that income obviously is been quite a hit for some people. But yeah, I mean, I'd hope that there aren't that many clubs that are that close to the breadline that missing 5 or 6 home games would sort of put them in any danger. So I must admit, I think I'd be surprised if a lot of clubs sort of went to the wall immediately on missing out on that last part of the season. But like I say, I don't think it can happen indefinitely. And I think that if it became a case of, well, for this calendar year, there's going to be no football and that's written off, then I think a lot more clubs will probably be a bit more nervous. But, it's every club's run differently. They all have different overheads and things like that. And I must admit, something that has surprised me is the amount of announcements that I've seen about sort of, we've signed such and such a player and we have no idea what's going to happen for next season. And yet I've seen a lot of clubs sort of announcing that they're retaining players and, management changes, people have appointed managers and things like that. And that's surprised me because, had the season that has just been cancelled continued, we'd have only just finished it. And so you'd expect to sort of hear that kind of news. But yeah, with the kind of things up in the air as they are, that's the main thing that surprised me is a lot of people announcing signings and new managers and stuff.
With Harlow, I mean, when was the first time you turned up to a game? I mean, what was your first game, and what do you remember of why did you go to Harlow, and then sort of secondly, what do you remember of the day when you went for your first Harlow game?
So I mean, I'm a Harlow boy, born and bred. I was born in the town, and the first game that I ever actually went to, I always knew where the stadium was and things like that. But the first game I ever actually went to was the pre-season friendly against Arsenal, which it would have been in, I think it was late 90s, something like that. I would have probably been 12, 13 years old, something like that. And I think a lot of people sort of my age, it was a big Arsenal, we know now that Ashley Cole was in the team and things like that. So yeah, I think a lot of people my age went along then. But to be honest, I didn't go to any games until much later. It was very much a one-time thing for me there. But I used to deliver the Harlow Star newspaper, again, sort of in my, I don't know, I probably started when I was 12, something like that, and went through my early teens delivering the Harlow Star. So I always followed Harlow without actually going to a game. I used to, whilst I was getting the papers, and the first thing I'd do is look on the back page and hear about the Harlow Town team and things like that. And it was really bizarre because, I knew all these players and things like that, but I'd barely seen them play. So yeah, I mean that was my first ever Harlow game. But then I grew up, went away to university, After 3 years of uni, moved back in with my dad. You come back with student debt, and you need to find somewhere to live. And so I moved back in with my dad. Got a job again in the town, and it was Ben Brown, tall Ben Brown that I worked with at the time, and he said, "Oh yeah, I've been going down to Harlow. It's really good." And I'll be absolutely honest with you, I thought non-league football, no, must be rubbish, not a chance. But he badgered me for a few weeks, and so finally I came along, and this was the season just after they'd beaten Sudbury in the playoff final. So it was the first year back in the Ryman Premier as it was then, and I came along to a home game, and I was absolutely hooked from that point. And to be honest, I can't remember anything about the game, and there might not have even been a game, because it was just the atmosphere on the terrace that straight away hooked me. This was I turned up, and you had Ray Dyer on the drum, and there was Simon, and you had Bernie bellowing it out, and you had Eric. All of these people have been going for kind of 20 years or so, and they were creating all the atmosphere. Scott with all the songs, and Legsy had just started going as well. So there was a really good bunch of people, and then there was kind of the younger generation of Ben Brown, who I'd actually gone to school with, and Gary McClare again, who I'd gone to school with but hadn't seen in several years. And these guys were going home and away, and straight away I went to that home game. The atmosphere on the terrace was fantastic. I can't even remember what happened on the pitch, and that was it. Got hooked from then on, and followed them for the rest of the season, and carried on after that.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think the one game you talked about atmosphere. I think the one game for me that really sort of gave me goosebumps, and I think it was the season. I don't even know what competition it was. It could have been the trophy, it could have been the League Cup, whatever. But I remember us playing, and I don't know which way round it was, so I can't remember which game it was. But I remember us in 2 rounds. We played Lowestoft, and then we went on to play Leiston. Or Leiston, whichever way people want to say it.
Yeah.
And we went round, and I can remember the Leiston game being the one where the atmosphere, I think we were behind and we came back and we won 3-2 or something like that sort of score. And the atmosphere that night, there was probably only about 200 people, if that, in the ground. But it felt like there was about 200,000 in the ground, because the place was absolutely rocking. And do you think that, you've been in I assume you've been in the old ground to the new ground. What would you have said was the best atmosphere? Is there a better atmosphere in the new ground, or was it the old ground?
Like I say, I only went to the old ground a couple of times, and most of those, that was kind of pre-season friendlies and stuff. So they weren't really competitive games. At that stage, I was just going along to a couple of the kind of glory pre-season friendlies. So, for me, it was always the supporters were the big drawback then when I first started, and that was the atmosphere that, again, relatively low numbers. We during that first season back in the Ryman Premier, I think we were sort of averaging 280, 300, something like that. But the main thing that I remember from that season was the away following of so many of the other clubs was fantastic. So you could have proper terrace battles, if you like. I remember lots of times when you had our little bunch of supporters on one half of that stand, the other half was filled with the travelling supporters, and I must admit that's something that seems to have you don't seem to get that as much anymore, like big groups of travelling supporters. Quite often you get maybe 20, 30, 40, but there aren't many sort of really vocal groups where I don't know if it's just because we're down a level now, but even the most recent kind of seasons that we've played in the Premier Division, a couple of years ago, you didn't seem to get that huge group of travelling supporters that would come to us, and then you'd sort of have that atmosphere. So, in terms of atmosphere, when I first started going, that for me, in my whole time that I've been following the club, that was like the golden age of the atmosphere at that club, when you had those big characters that I mentioned, almost single-handedly they could whip up the rest of the supporters around them, and and I truly believe that especially at our level, that gets the players going. It's different when you've got a group of 50 people singing your name in a stadium full of 200 people rather than 50 people in a 20,000 stadium.
I mean, with the games in that first season you went to, is there a highlight in that first season for you that you remember that you enjoyed the most?
I mean, that was the year when we had the FA Cup run, where we ended up hosting Macclesfield, I think. I don't know. My memory is notoriously bad, but I'm pretty sure that was the year when we had Macclesfield, and that cup run was something pretty special. So in terms of all of the games that I've been to, I think those gave some of the best ones. The first away game I ever went to is memorable for a different reason, and it was only a couple of weeks after I went to my first home game. Again, it was Ben Brown. He said, "Oh yeah, come along to this away game, and we've got a lift. There's this guy called Alan. He'll take us all." I later found out that it's Mad Al, and he picked us up in this. I think it was like a minibus or some kind of. it was like a 7-seater or something. No, I think it was a minibus. It was bigger than a 7-seater, but we got close to the ground, and he had no idea where he was going, and went the wrong way up a one-way street. And I thought, bloody hell, this is my first away game ever, and I'm going to die here. We're having to mount the curb to avoid oncoming cars and stuff like that. So that was memorable, but not for a footballing reason.
What was the game? Can you remember?
I think it was Hornchurch. For some reason, I think it was a game away to Hornchurch. But yeah, it was, like I say, it was only a few weeks after I started watching the club, and I think once you've had a journey like that from Al, you don't forget it. That's for sure. Yeah, it gives you a different perspective on life, anyway.
Well, you said about funny away journeys, and I think one of the just brings back a memory. We went at the time. I think I was matchday secretary, and I was kit man as well. We went to go to for me, probably one of the best away trips, because I absolutely loved the town where I'm about to say. We went to Wroxham. I think it was the first away game of the season. Went up to Wroxham for a night game up there, and a certain Mr. Tim Saul came with us, and it was he decided to drive. There was me, the wife, and him in the car, and we drove up to Wroxham. And this was like, I think Tim may have been on board at the time doing the youth with me at the time. I'm not too sure. And I remember on the way home, we came out, and I'm sure it was on the way home, we got all the kit in the car, we put it all in the car, and Tim comes out, takes a wrong turn, and goes down a country lane, and he'll tell you the story because it was hilariously funny. And as we've gone past, there's a car parked on the verge, and it's literally just a one-way, a dead end down this country road. And there was a car with its lights completely off. And shall we say there was a couple in there? What's the word we're looking for? Should we say dogging?
Steamy windows, yeah.
And as we went past, Tim's given the flash of the lights in his car, as we've gone past, thinking that we could get out the other end. And of course, as we've gone so far up, it's a dead end, so we've had to turn around and come back again, and he's done exactly the same on the way back. But it was just
for a second look.
But it was just absolutely brilliant. It was just so funny. But that season sort of finished. What would you say is your favourite season?
It's the strange thing about our club is we've had lots of ups but lots of downs, and that I think that season was really good because we had that cup run. We also had that was the game when we went away to AFC Wimbledon. I think it was the penultimate game in the season, and we went there and we beat them and caused absolute havoc in their clubhouse afterwards. We were singing and shouting and whatnot, and they were good as gold because I think they knew they were going up anyway at that stage. And that season was, I don't know if it's just me looking back with rose-tinted specs, but that was a really good season because it was it had a bit of everything. But that said, the season that followed, a couple of years later, it was the one where we finished rock bottom, and it was the 2009-2010 season, I think it was, when we had all the money troubles. The new manager came in almost the day before the season started, and that we went to every single game that year, pretty much knowing we were going to get beaten, and yet it was still such a good crack on the terraces. And you're talking about sort of driving to away games. Generally it would be me, Gary McClare, Legsy and Buddha in a car, and we'd do all of the away games, and sometimes we had more fun in the car on the way to the game than we did when we got to the actual game. But there was still a decent, even though that season we knew we didn't expect anything, and I think that's the main difference. We knew that we had some players that were playing for nothing. We had some kids playing, and we weren't expecting anything, and some of those were some of the funniest of the games. But I think so it's hard to say what the best season so far has been, but I don't know, maybe if I had to choose one, it would probably be the second time we got promoted to the Premier Division recently. So the winning the playoff final, because after I think we got to the playoffs, was it 4 times in 5 years or 4 times in 6 years, something like that? It felt like we just kept falling at that final hurdle. We'd finished just a point away from winning the league one season, and then we got to the playoff finals one season, and finally we'd done it. So I think that the aftermath of that kind of game was it was relief, and just joy everywhere. So I think that season probably was the best out of all of them.
Great season. I asked Ray the same question, and he said, I think some of the stuff he was going back and talking about the Leicester season, etc., etc. But I think for me, as I said to him, the one that I remember is the one that finished disastrously for us, which was the second year we got to the playoff finals, when of course we lost to Needham Market, as you just said, by a point in that season. But that season was just something super special. I felt it was one of those seasons where it was every single game. I remember walking up and down, doing the tannoy, but literally walking up and down behind the back of the chairs like a pregnant father, because you was on it almost every single game. City. I think when we spoke in the last episode, the 2 games there that stood out for me were both the Needham Market games, which was, Daniel Matiasuka playing so well, coming in on loan from Southend, and then sort of the other game when Craig Pope, missed with almost the last kick of the game. In the end, would have got us promoted that year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's it just shows those. It sounds cliche, but those fine margins. That it literally was in, what was it, the second minute of of added time. Sorry, and it went maybe half a foot past the post, and of course because it was an away game, we were all behind that, and so we could see it creeping towards it. But that's it. It wasn't to be, and that season was it was a good one, despite the disappointment. It was a good one, actually.
So what was your thoughts on what happened next?
The Thurrock game,
because Ray of course had already upset him, hadn't he? So Ray had already upset him by what had happened previously with the illegitimate player and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
and all the rest of it.
That was one thing. Ray I think he's done fantastically for this club, and that was one thing that I think no one's mentioned over the past couple of weeks, since he resigned. That when he spotted that player that was on the Cindy list, and we could have played them. We could have had points deducted. There were other clubs that hadn't spotted that, like you say, he at the time, I remember him saying, well, I was just doing my job, but a lot of people hadn't spotted it. So you're right. There was a little bit more needle there, but that game against Thurrock, I think that's the best game of football I've ever seen. Yeah. It had absolutely everything. It was high stakes because it was a semi-final. The playoff semi-final. I think we conceded in like 20 seconds or something like that.
Almost all after the kickoff, almost every kickoff they scored.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we had to, it's almost like we wanted even more of a challenge. It's from the kickoff we lost the ball and then they scored in 20 seconds or something. I think it was it went to extra time. They missed a penalty in extra time. There was red cards right at the end. It was just I remember thinking that 30 minutes of extra time was just end-to-end stuff, and both teams could have probably scored 3 or more goals in extra time alone. And yes, the result went the wrong way. We lost the game at the end of the day. But in terms of, like, if I was a neutral at that game, I would have come away from that thinking, bloody hell, this non-league football is not bad.
Yeah.
It was such a good game.
But you say we lost, we just lost the game. But of course, what had gone before that with 100 points, 100 goals, it was almost like, it was. Personally, I think it was probably the most devastating game of football I think I've watched, if I'm honest, and that's like full stop. Not just non-league, but any game of football.
Yeah, I mean that's it. You look at so we finished a point behind. Was it a point or 2 points behind Needham Market that year? But were we 7 or 8, maybe even more points ahead of the third place team.
Yeah.
So
and I think we 20 odd points in front of Thurrock as well as it ended up.
Yeah, so that's it. Part of you sort of thinks, well, how can that possibly be fair? But then the rest of you says, well, that's the playoffs. That's what they're there for. They're there to give those teams that don't quite cut it during the league season a bit of a chance to get up. And we all knew the rules before we started the season, and it just happened that it was a cracking game. We just came down on the wrong side of it, unfortunately. But
I think the biggest thing of that whole season, what I remember more than anything, was at the end of that Thurrock game. And I think, if I remember rightly, Daniel Matiasuka had come back for a couple of games, or had come back for that game specifically at the end. And I remember him walking past me, and he just walked past me in tears, and just basically turned around at me and went, "Sorry, Dave." He said, "Sorry, I didn't get you up." And that sort of stuck in my head a lot, even to this day, because you think, so well, he probably only played half a dozen games, if that, probably during that season, and the guy was absolutely distraught that he couldn't get us up into the division above.
Yeah, I mean, there was a real that squad that year. There was a real camaraderie about the whole squad. I mean, it was a brilliant team. We had the likes of Craig Pope, Lane Eady, Josh Urquhart in defence, Alex Reid, of course, he banged all the goals in. Fabian Sims was there. That was Jared Small and Junior Dadson as well. We had them bombing it up the wings. So, I think that squad was a fantastic squad, and we kept most of them for the following season as well, which is why we again did so well and finally managed to go one step further. But I think in all the time I've been following the club, that's probably the best squad that we've ever had. The creativity from the midfield and Alex Reid. When he was on fire, he would just bang in any chance he was given. So it was that squad. I can believe that they were all devastated, and even, like you say, the players who maybe hadn't been there the whole season, it was deflating. But they got another go the following year.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back a year if we can, because the year before, of course, was for me the weird year for me, and this was one of the ones that again I discussed with Ray last week when we were talking, and it was just a case of getting into the playoff. We're into the playoffs. We come up against Heybridge Swifts, and we were playing them away at the time. And I remember going up there with Ray, and we was really cold evening going up to Heybridge, and it was the first time I'd ever been to Heybridge, and of course they'd beaten us 3 times that season. They'd beaten us home and away in the league. They'd also beaten us in the FA Cup as well.
Yeah,
you're going up there thinking, oh, dear me, hang on a minute. Well, this ain't great. And I think, as I've said it quite a few times, it was one of those games where I interviewed Jody Brown on my show, and I remember him saying to me, he said, "Look, we knew we'd lost that game the minute we walked out of the tunnel." He said, because all the Harlow fans are all congregating around. I can see it as if it was yesterday. All Buddha and all the Paul and all those literally all round the actual the walkway there, smashing on top of the ceiling and screaming, shouting, sirens going off and drums and God knows what else going on. But for me, and I said it's around numerous occasions, I think they lost it when Jody Brown decided to take the Manager of the Month award for I think it was for April, in the middle of the pitch before the semi-final.
Yeah, I mean if that doesn't get you rolled up for a game, then nothing will. I mean that game was something else. That was one where you never felt we weren't in control of the game. You know, we were absolutely on top of the whole game long, and you know we completely outplayed them. And again, that was another really good game of football. Just our performance was fantastic. But I mean the irony of it is you know saying that they perhaps lost the game in their minds before it, because we did so well in that semi-final. Maybe we lost the final before we even kicked that off, because I remember, you know, we had the coaches going down there. No one was going down there thinking we were coming back anything other than winning that game and getting promoted. And that was probably one of the worst feelings, one of the worst games of being a supporter, is that going to that game being so confident, overconfident probably, and I'm talking from a supporter's perspective. You know, I don't know what the players were feeling, but yeah, as supporters, we went there overconfident. It was an absolute dust bowl of a pitch, and you know maybe we didn't adjust to that, but just the real downer after that, thinking, well, where did it all go wrong? You know, 3 days ago we played our absolute socks off in the semi-final, and then somehow we let it all slip away, and that was a real kick in the teeth, that one. But you know, I'm an eternal optimist, and these things all happen for a reason. And you know, it then gave us the following season where again we had another cracking season, and that team that we managed to keep together for kind of three seasons, I think it was, that was some of the best football that we've played. You know, the likes of Junior Dadson and Alex Reed and Leon Antoine. You had all of those really. Really tight-knit players that would, as a squad, they all came together for a good three or four seasons, and yeah, it was fantastic to watch that whole period.
Well, that was our CEO's first ever game. Because I
had no idea until I saw you say when you're talking to Ray. Yeah,
it was an interesting game, because we went up there, and a bit like you said. Yeah. We beat them twice this year already, Tim. You know, like blah blah blah, and all this stuff. We went up there with my daughter, and I can't remember anything about the game other than two things. One was we lost our penguin. If you remember,
a blow up penguin.
Yeah, that got taken. And then the only other thing I remember, and literally, I think I don't even know what half it was. It might have been the second half, and one of their supporters had had too much to drink, walked down the right hand side of the pitch, got level with the 18-yard box, and decided to throw a full can of Coke into our fans. I think it was just after someone had sprayed the physio with water and all that sort of stuff, and someone launched this can over. And of course, Tim was there with his like £1,000, God knows what, camera. My daughter was standing literally down by his feet, and this missile just come flying over. I didn't even see it come, and literally, Tim's just managed to move out of the way and save my daughter from getting it straight in the face, and an exploding Diet Coke going absolutely everywhere, and Tim. Losing his absolute nut, like, do you know what I mean? But it was.
It got a bit feisty.
It did. But it was one of those games again. You know, it was just you beat them twice. You're thinking, great. You know, this is going to be. You know, we should win this or whatever else, and then it just didn't turn out to be.
Yeah, no, I mean that's it. It was such a downer. I think because everyone went there expecting it, and you know you should never do that going into a football game. That's the thing we all know about football. And on the day, it's the team that plays the best that's going to win the game. And you know it's the biggest mistake you can make is going into a game thinking you've already won it. And probably I can't think of many other games since where we've done that. As you know, as Harlow Town supporters, we've never gone into a game since thinking, oh yeah, we've got this wrapped up, because you know we've been there, we've seen it before.
So when did you become press officer for the club? And when did that come up? How did that come about?
You know what? Knowing that you were probably going to ask me that, I tried to work it out, and I cannot for the life of me work out when it was. So I mean, it basically came about because so at the time Ray was secretary, and before me, you had Chris Kane, who was writing the press reports for the non-league paper and stuff like that. And he had gone to in the summer. He had gone away to uni. So for a while, Ray managed to do it. And so I think that was the 2012-2013 season. So Ray sort of did it to start off with, but he sort of needed a bit of help, and I had before this. So I think a couple of years before, I had set up the Harlow Town Twitter account and the Facebook page and stuff like that, and so I kind of said to him, well, I'll give it a go. I've got no experience of writing match reports or anything like that, but I'm quite keen on it. I'll give it a try. I already do the social media, so I'll give that a go, and it kind of went from there. So I think that must have been the sort of just into the 2012 season when I started doing it, and like I say, that was just sort of match reports, and I already did the social media stuff. So I was doing sort of tweets and updates on the match days and stuff like that, and then it kind of grew from there, really. Then it became, we need someone to sort of sort out the website and do a bit on the website. So I said, okay, I'll do the website of things as well. And before I knew it, I was a press officer and doing all of that. So it's, I mean, the one thing I said to Ray when I approached him, I said, I'm happy to do it. I'd like to give it a go, but I always see myself as a supporter first and foremost. And so I said, I'm not going to be wearing the tie. I'm not going to be in the boardroom, if that's okay. I'd still like to be on the terrace and stuff. So yeah, most people, I don't think even know what I look like, because I'm not there on a match day in the suit with a tie and walking around, and people think, oh yeah, he must be something to do with the club, because I kind of blend in a bit incognito. I'll be sat in the stands, and the only thing is I tend to have a notebook on me most days, and pretty much any photo that you see of the fans, whenever a photo is taken, you only catch the top of my head, because I'm either looking down at my phone, tweeting it out, or scribbling a note down. So there's so many photos of sort of a big bunch of fans, and you see the top of my head. But yeah, that was the only thing that I said to Ray. Look, I want to stay in with the fans. That's where I get my most enjoyment. I'll happily do all the match reports and stuff like that. But I don't much fancy sitting in the boardroom and or sitting up in a press box somewhere. I'd rather stay with the supporters. So yeah, so I think that's probably it. So it must be getting on for 8 years or so now that I've been doing that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you was part of the team. I'm 100% sure you was part of the team. You was part of the team when we took the supporters down to Maidstone.
Yes, I absolutely was. Yeah.
We had this discussion with Ray. I mean, last week as well. I mean, what's your memories of that day?
Exactly what you said. Yeah, we were told, oh yeah, there's this, because Maidstone have got this 3G, we've got this 3G, it's going to be this 3G Cup, and it's going to be, I distinctly remember there'll be supporters teams. Yeah. So we thought, we love a bit of a kickabout, and I think we probably, I don't know how many people we took, it can't have been that many, maybe 13 or 14, something like that. I remember Legsy was there, Mickey Long was there as well. Tim, yourself, and Ray, and so yeah, we turn up, and well, actually we're on the way, and it's only when we're on the way that we're told, oh, actually they're not so much.
We were trying to work out who the other person was in the car. It was you, wasn't it? It was me.
Yeah,
you, Tim,
I remember
Ray.
being told, actually, we're not we're not going to be playing supporters. It's actually going to be. So we're getting told, oh yeah, there's all these veterans and stuff like that. And I remember we went down in one car and phoning someone from the other car that was travelling down and saying, lads, have you heard this? And they're sort of saying, what do you mean? So we're halfway around the M25, threatening to come off at the next junction, and yeah, Ray's. I think I don't know whether it was accidentally on purpose, but Ray's well and truly stitched us up. So yeah, like you said, we turned up
And
and
then
we got offered a Koku
then when they
there.
started coming running out, you had the veterans, then you had half of their under-21s coming out as well.
Yeah, that's it. And I remember there's one bit in that tournament that sticks out absolutely vividly. It was the last game, and so I can't remember. We played 3 games or something like that. We were in the last game, and someone played a ball through to midfield, and I ran onto it, and just my legs had completely gone. So I had this ball, and I was kind of running and falling at the same time. You had Mickey Long was absolutely belting up the right hand side of me, and he was like, pass the ball, and I just couldn't do it. I just fell over, and it was hysterical because my legs had just completely gone. I just couldn't get off one simple pass to try and play him through. We were just shot. And
I mean, it was
God,
one of
yeah.
the things, but the pitch itself, though, and I'm all for 3G. But that was dreadful, wasn't it? It was literally like running on a sponge, like like a household sponge. It was a really weird pitch to run on as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's it. Whether or not you come down on the pro or anti 3G pitch, I can see the massive benefits for clubs at this level, but there's a huge difference in people talk about grass pitches and 3G it'll level the playing field and stuff. There's a huge difference, and I remember I think it was slightly longer, wasn't it? That pile was slightly longer, and likewise I remember when Aveley got theirs done. What's that, 3 years ago now or something like that? Went to see the pre-season there, and again that was completely different. I can't remember if that was longer or shorter than us. So yeah, I mean even 3G pitches, they all play differently, and I think whether or not you agree with them, you've got to admit that they're beneficial for clubs at our level. But yeah, I hear these stories of players not liking to play on them, and the injuries, do they cause more injuries or not? I mean, all I can tell you is by playing 3 games one after the other on that pitch, I was absolutely shattered. Yeah. It killed my legs, definitely.
So I mean, one of the other games, I mean, moving forward, I remember we had the Great Cup run again where we lost to Braintree, in the last qualifying round. It would have got Oxford United, in that round. But the one cup competition for me that I always remember was the trophy run, and getting the draw against Bath at home when Sonko got the bit nasty cut on his head and he had to come off. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, oh my God, we're going to get battered now because he's come off and we're going to be in trouble. And then going to Bath, I mean, I don't know if you went to Bath, but we went to Bath. It was the best away games I've ever been to. It was absolutely sensational.
Yeah, I was absolutely gutted because I was working on the south coast that day, down near Brighton, and so I remember thinking, right, I've got this meeting that's going to finish at about 4:00 or something like that. If I bang it up the M23 around the M25, I can get to Bath in time for kickoff. But I'd gone to this meeting with my boss, and so after it, she was like, right, we're just going to go to these services. We just need to go through something. And yeah, an hour and a half later, I was still sat in the services, so I was never going to get down there. I was absolutely devastated. But yeah, I mean that was what a result to go there and get that. I'm gutted that I wasn't able to get to the game, but I was delighted to hear the result.
I think the game previous to the Eastleigh game was, and funny enough, it came up on the memories today. So it was on Facebook with Martin Allen doing his interview after the game and giving absolutely no praise whatsoever to the Harlow team that had just turned them over.
Yeah. No, I mean that's it. I think I think in general, like I said before, some teams, whether or not you're sort of a giant slayer or you're going there and you're the big club, you've still got to approach the game right. You've got to recognise that it doesn't matter whether there's one position or 5 leagues between you. If you don't turn up and you don't play well on the day, then you're probably not going to win the game. So, yeah, I think, there's always, when you're a small club like us, whenever you go anywhere, you've always got a chance of turning over a big team, and that's what we all live for. That's one of the small things that as a non-league supporter you can look forward to. Hopefully, turning over a big club one day.
I suppose, how difficult is it? And I know when I was at the club previously, and nearly a short period of time this time, but how difficult is it sort of having sort of one leg sort of as a supporter, one leg as sort of inside the club, and you're sitting there listening to some of the stuff that I was listening to with about Danny and Danny this, Danny that, and I'm picking on Danny because was normally the main sort of. How difficult is that? I mean, did you find it as difficult as I did when you were listening to some of it, and you got sort of semi right in the middle of it all?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I do kind of fall somewhere in the middle. Like I said, when I first took on this role, I always said, well, I'm a supporter first and foremost, but that doesn't mean that, I like you say, I hear information, I get told things, in confidence, and, this is what the club's doing, or we're looking to sign this player and stuff like that. And obviously I have to keep that to myself. And it is difficult sometimes, because I do have, people ring me or text me saying, what's going on? I've heard this rumor, and sometimes I have to say, I can't tell you, or I don't know. And yeah, it's hard having, like you say, one foot in each camp. But I mean, like you say, the Danny Chapman situation is a good example, because I think, what he did for our club as a player and a manager, I think was a great achievement. I think one of the issues towards the end is that he was seen as a bit stubborn and a bit he would a bit gruff perhaps. You couldn't go and approach him, and that's something I think a lot of supporters have sort of said to me, he's unapproachable and things like that. And yet for me, I'd go in after a game, we'd do our post-match interview, and then I'd spend 5 minutes chatting to him and having a laugh, and I found him quite a really nice guy, and I think that was just a different side to him that the supporters didn't see. So yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a benefit and a curse is that you do have one foot in both camps, and it is a bit difficult to sort of deal with from time to time. I'm quite lucky in that I've got a very good relationship with Donna, who is the same. Donna is a massive supporter, but of course now the club secretary. So she's someone that I always speak to. I often joke with my wife that I speak to Donna more than I do my wife, and we're always messaging each other about various players that we're trying to sign, and what's going on. So I've got her to bounce thoughts off. But while
we're on the subject of your lady wife, has she got a secret admirer?
What about? It's news to me. Yeah, I did see the reply to that. Yeah, I think Ross has met her on a couple of occasions. I think speaking of Donna, we went to Donna's wedding together, so I think he probably met her there. So she's very beautiful, even if I do say so myself. So I'm sure she's got many secret admirers.
I'll be honest with you. Every time I see a picture of her, and I think I've said it to you before, all I see is the actress from Pitch Perfect.
I don't know who that is, but there is an actress that people always say that she looks like.
Absolutely incredible. It's just, I'll send you the picture later on, and you can see what I mean. But incredible.
Yeah, there's someone that people always say that she's the spitting image of, and I've never seen whoever the actress is. I've never seen her in anything, but apparently she is a very similar looking girl. Yeah.
So I mean, game wise, I mean, in the years that you've been following Harlow, is there one game then that sort of sticks out in your mind that you'd love to go back and start from the first whistle and watch again?
Well, I think one of the best. I mean, the Thurrock that we've already talked about. That Thurrock semi-final that we've already talked about. That was a fantastic game. And I think I'd love to watch that one again as a neutral if possible, because I think it would just be such a good day. Another one, which what year would this be? So it was again an FA Cup run. It might even have been that FA Cup run that I was talking about earlier. It was St Albans, where we were away at St Albans and we drew 0-0 there, and we brought them back to our place for the replay. And again, that was one where the atmosphere was absolutely incredible, and one where I'm sure that you hear the stories about the 12th man and stuff like that. I think the supporters that day were the 12th and 13th man, and we beat them. I think it was something. It might have been 3-2 or something like that. We were maybe 2-1 down, and then it was pretty late on that we beat St Albans in the replay, and that was again one of the ones that I think is one of the best games that I've seen us play. And again, a lot of these memories, it comes down to the atmosphere of the atmosphere off the pitch as much as it does what happened on the pitch. So yeah, I think probably that Thurrock game, the Hornchurch game where we won, and that St Albans FA Cup replay are three of my probably top games I've been to. Yeah.
So I'll leave the final two questions for it. But was you surprised, like me, that when Danny resigned?
Not so much. I mean, to be honest, I think he had been. If it had happened 12 months previously, it would have possibly surprised me. If it had happened in the prior summer, then I don't think I'd have been surprised. But I don't know. You got that. I mean, he never sort of said to me anything about he was thinking about it. But you could tell that we went on that period between, I think it was November and January, where we lost 10 games or we didn't win for 10 games or something like that. And it was just. I remember speaking to him after the games, and he was frustrated, and you could tell that he was down, and it was really hurting him. And after what was it, eight years as manager, it still was really hurting him to come off that pitch and not have the win. So when I heard it, I thought it didn't surprise me, because I kind of felt for a few weeks that it had been coming. But the fact that it was a strange season, because we'd started the season really well. At one stage we were doing okay, and then we just hit that slump, and yeah, I think it just became a bit of a drag on him. So it didn't surprise me as much as I think it did others. And like I said earlier, I think he's a really nice guy. I always got on really well with him. But yeah, I think the time was probably right. I think he needed a break, needed to get away from it, and we probably could have done with the freshening up at the time as well.
So I suppose just a question I thought of actually while you were talking about him, but so would you be surprised in the future if if he came back and took the role back again?
No. Again, I don't think I would be surprised. I mean, I think he genuinely loves the club. He's. I don't think you can play as many games and manage as many games for one club and not love the club. It's hard to predict the future, but I know that Tommy is a big fan of him. They get on very well, and so who knows? You can never say never in football. I don't know honestly what his plans are. He said he wanted to take a few months out of football and then kind of reassess. But yeah, if he came back in some capacity in the future, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, because I think he's got a real close affinity with the club, and I think the club has with him. I think supporters in general, I think if you spoke to a lot of them, they'd sort of say that, it was due a change. And a lot of them have said this to me, that, the time was for him to go, and maybe he should have gone sort of 6 months earlier when we got relegated again. That was probably the right time. But Yeah, I think in general people recognise what he did for the club, and can recognise that he's given a lot of time and effort to the club over the years. So yeah, like I say, never say never.
So last question, then with two answers, and you can spring them out as long as you like or as short as you like, whichever. But
Right.
favourite player, favourite goal.
Blimey. I would have, had you just asked me favourite player, I would have probably said Lane Eady. But I'm going to go with the second one first. Favourite goal, Lane Eady. And it's that, I can't even remember who it was against now, but you know the one that I mean, where it was picked up by Soccer AM.
I called it on video. It was my video that went.
Yes, that was it. And he scored for a left back. He didn't half have a decent shot on him from time to time, and he's he was he was a fantastic player. I don't want to say he set the trend, but at one stage going back sort of 10 years, you had left back and a right back who they would just sit there and defend their area. But nowadays a left back, a right back, any kind of fullback has got to be able to overlap with the midfield. I mean, you've only got to look at Trent Alexander-Arnold as one of the best fullbacks in the world at the moment, and he does it to perfection. And Lane Eady was like that. He would get forward and he worked well with midfield, and he scored probably the best goal that I've ever seen someone in a Harlow shirt score. So I think I'll go with that. I would have chosen him as best player. But I'm not gonna choose him for both. So I'm gonna change that to probably Junior Dadson, who I think on his day was unplayable. When he had the ball at his feet, he would create goals. Him running at defenders, I think they'd be absolutely terrified by him. Cutting him from either wing, and getting on the score sheet. I mean that year that. We were talking about earlier where Alex scored, was it 50 goals or whatever it was, 52 goals, I think. Junior Dadson chipped in with a hell of a lot of goals there and a lot of assists. And I think on his day, Junior Dadson was one of the most exciting players to watch. So yeah, I'll go with Dadson for my favourite player, and with an honourable mention for Lane Eady, who gets my favourite goal as well.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Again, one of them came up the other day, and if people were asking me favourite goal, it would be the diving header for Shane Stamp against the Market, which was one of my favourites. Favourite player, and I think if anybody asked, if I said to people, guess who my favourite player is, most people would say, "Oh, you're going to say Reedy," but no, my favourite player, if I'm honest, just Pippin Fabian Sims, if I'm honest. I think he's a absolutely cracking player. But for me, the player that had the most effect on me because of what he did for my daughter and just the all-round type of player he is, and was Danny Brown. I thought Danny Brown was absolutely sensational player. And again, the story that we spoke about last week, where we went to Ware on the season before 3G, and the referee turned around and said it was a really horrific day, weather-wise. And we remember the referee turning around saying, stand your feet, lads, otherwise I have to abandon the game. And we were losing at the time. And Danny Brown sort of launched himself, from about 20 metres away, 40 metres away, and just flown into a challenge, and the referee calls it off. And it was just, okay, fair enough. And went on to win the win the replay.
And that was Ware, wasn't it?
He was, yeah.
Because I believe that that was the game, the original game that got called off was Spencer Knight, our old assistant manager, had scored for Ware against us in that game. But of course it got called off, and so his goal got chalked off as well. I think he was always a bit miffed about that. But actually, my favourite Danny Brown story is one that's almost unrepeatable. It was when David Cowley had left. He had played for us, obviously, for a couple of seasons, and then he left us, and I can't remember who it was we were playing. It might have been Sudbury or someone like that. But the goalkeeper, the opposition goalkeeper, launched the ball forward, and it was heading right towards Dave Cowley. Brownie's come steaming out of defence. and sort of shout, Cowley, my bum, and the kind of words that he said, I can't possibly repeat. And Cowley's kind of ducked out of it, and then Brownie's just steamed through, cleared out the ball, and it was just hilarious to see. Like, I think most of us watching it were probably scared of Brownie at the time as well. But yeah, he was a good player.
I've heard stories like that before, where he shouted at players, "Touch that ball, I'll break your legs," and stuff like this.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. He was that kind of. He had that kind of aura about him. But yeah, fantastic defender.
I think, to be honest with you, the other one player as well, which most people might not have even remember playing and all the rest of it. There was one player for me that played for Harlow. He had a football brain that was above everybody else that was in the team, and because he had that football brain and no one else was in the team at the time, sort of could read the game like he did. He made him look bad, if you know what I mean. So he was putting passes in where he was expecting people to run, or he'd run into space where he was expecting the ball to go, and it was never actually coming there. And that was in the season I think, when we nearly got relegated, and it was a young lad that was playing called Sam Deeney. He played in that season. He played for Waltham Abbey previously. And funny, people say it might sound biased because he was my captain in my youth team as well. So people might sound a little bit biased, but he did score 49 goals from left side of midfield. But in one of the seasons, but he was just one of those players that you could see that was just so far in advance of everybody else. And he was one of those ones you'd look at and think you could have picked him up and put him in that playoff winning side or one of the playoff losing, and would have been a great asset to that team. But I think the only other player that doesn't seem to get the credit, Ian, as well, that probably deserves in that year when you were talking about the 3 years where the squad stayed together, was Shane Stamp.
Yes, yeah. I mean, he was in the team at a time when we seemed to be absolutely blessed with wide players. We've already mentioned Junior Dadson, Jared Small, and yeah, Shane was again another good player. He was a big guy. Like he was absolutely ripped, but he had strength as well. He was a really good player. Yeah.
And he's out in the UAE. I mean, I think out in Kuwait, somewhere around that sort of thing. And he's doing his business.
Yeah, I think he went. Yeah, he went to play abroad somewhere. But yeah, he never really. I mean, I don't know how many games he played for us, but yeah, I'd guess it was nowhere near as many as the other wingers like Small and Dadson, because yeah, I don't know if it's just he wasn't able to get in the team at the time, but yeah, we did seem to be blessed with some really good wide players at that time. And yeah, I think you mentioned earlier Fabian Sims. I think what a club man he was to sort of play for us for all of those years. He was the kind of player that I think you didn't really notice what he was doing, but if he wasn't in the team, then he was missed. If that makes sense, he was kind of your midfield general who would just do his job and sit there, play those kind of balls, break up the play and stuff. He was another really good player. So yeah, there's been some during my time. There's been some really good players that have come through that club, and I hope it's really these kind of times we're living in. We never know sort of how things are going to be in the future. We don't know what kind of budget we're going to have and whereabouts we're going to be. But I'd like to think that we've got some more good good players that we can look forward to seeing over the next few years at any rate.
Absolutely, mate. Listen, mate, it's been a pleasure you joining me today. Stay on the line, because I've got something I need to ask you off here. But literally, I'm really pleased to that you come on. Hopefully, we can get some of the others. I'm quite surprised. I'm trying to get Buddha to come on and Paul and a few of the others to come on and have a chat and just have a bit of a laugh and a joke with them. So I'm struggling actually to get people to come on and have a chat with me, but hopefully we'll get a few more.
I tell you what, I'm really looking. I'd love to hear Phil Tewson, because I've got some story. Like we said, I've got a load of stories from kind of 2010 onwards, since I've been involved in the club. Whenever it was. But yeah, Phil, going back to the 60s, 70s. I'm sure he's got some great. So I'd love to hear some stories of some of the other long-term fans. Yeah.
I've spoken to Phil, and Phil's turned around and said that that he will come on, but I know he's not too well at the moment. So we're going to try and do like a Harlow decade as well. So we're going to try and do that show as well. So hopefully when Phil gets a little bit better, we'll get him on and have a good chat with him. It might take 3 of these to actually get through all of his games, though.
Material he's got, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks for joining us tonight. And guys, if you want to come on the show and join me for My Harlow My Life, then please do, and give us a call. Give us a call, or get us through Facebook or Twitter, or eventually, of course, you can come and see us at a game, and we'll get you on the show. But until episode 3, thank you very much for watching, and see you again soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.